Here are the top stories of the news. President Muhammadu Buhari approves the postponement of the 2023 population and housing census. APC National Chairman calls NEC meeting after lawsuit. And on the foreign scene, massive fire ignited in the Crimean port city of Sevastopol following a suspected drone attack. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Tunde Ido. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the postponement of the 2023 population and housing census, earlier scheduled for May 3rd to 7th, 2023, to a date to be determined by the incoming administration. The president gave the approval after meeting with some members of the Federal Executive Council and the chairman of the National Population Commission, Nasir Issa Kwara, and his team at the presidential villa in Abuja yesterday. This is contained in a press statement signed by the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, and released this morning. Mr. Mohammed said the president appreciated the progress made in the preparation for and methodology had been put in place by the NPC to conduct the now postponed census. And moving on to politics, the embattled national chairman of the ruling All Progressive Congress APC, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, has called for a meeting of the party's National Working Committee. The meeting scheduled for next Wednesday was revealed in a leaked circulation to all NWC members. The development is coming barely 24 hours after Mr. Adamu and the party's National Secretary, Senator Iyola Omishore, were dragged to court by the National Vice Chairman Northwest, Saliu Lukman, over an alleged breach of the party's constitution. Mr. Lukman had accused Mr. Adamu of reducing the NWC members to a mere rubber stamp to approve important decisions he single-handedly took. The face-off between the Kaduna politician and the APC national chairman has been recurring in the last 1 year, but the crisis took a different twist on Thursday when Mr. Adamu and Mr. Omishore were officially served the court summon. Meanwhile, the governors of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike and Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, yesterday paid a visit to the president-elect Bola Tinubu at the Defense House, Abuja. Mr. Wike and Mr. Makinde, who are members of the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, met with the president-elect alongside other governors of the All Progressive Congress, APC. Briefing journalists after the meeting, Mr. Makinde said elections are over and the country must move towards governance, adding that he will do his best to support the president-elect. Mr. Wike also expressed support for the incoming Tinubu administration and expressed optimism that he will turn the country around. Governor Wike and Makinde are members of the G5 governors, which include Samuel Othom of Benue, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi of Enugu, and Okezi Ikpeazu of Abia State, all members of the PDP.
Elections have come and gone. The winner has emerged, and therefore it is necessary for all Nigerians to rally around to give you the necessary support for the interests of Nigeria. And everyone is expecting, everyone can wait till May 29th to see that the president has been inaugurated, and then from there he keeps the ground rolling to make sure that Nigeria gets what they expect. I'm confident that he has what it takes to turn Nigeria around. I have that confidence.
I came here to basically pay homage to the president-elect and to let him know that, elections are over. This is governance, and we will do our best, to give him support for good governance of Nigeria.
The governorship candidate of the All Progressive Congress APC in Kogi State, Usman Ododo, received President Muhammadu Buhari's blessings as the party's flag bearer in the November election. Mr. Ododo made this known while briefing State House correspondents after he was presented to the president by Governor Yahaya Bello. Governor Bello, while expressing delight in the capacity of the APC candidate, assured the residents of the state of continuity in the infrastructure renewal master plan, which his administration embarked on 7 years ago. He stated that party in the state was one united family, noting that the APC was very well positioned to win the next governorship election. Mr. Ododo emerged as Kogi APC governorship candidate through a direct primary election on April 14th and was ratified through a special congress of the party on April 15th.
We have a father who, by the special grace of God, came about this All Progressives Congress in the person of President Muhammadu Buhari, the leader of our party. So it is our tradition to present our candidates to our father and our president. So that is exactly what I came to do today. I have presented for candidate Alhaji Usman Ododo to our president, President Muhammadu Buhari, and he has given his blessings and admonition to him, myself, and as usual, to all Nigerians, to remain steadfast, a party man.
In the meantime, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has asked the international community to immediately impose sanctions on President Muhammadu Buhari for making prejudicial statements against petitions filed before the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. The party, at a press conference by its National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologunagba, condemned President Buhari's statement where he said the APC presidential candidate and President-elect Bola Tinubu won the February 25, 2023 presidential election. According to the PDP, the statement reveals the utter disregard that President Buhari has for our constitutional democracy, judiciary, and the will of the Nigerian people. Meanwhile, the Labour Party has also tackled the president over his position on the outcome of the February 25 presidential election, claiming that the APC did not win the election.
The Electoral Act 2022, INEC regulations and guidelines, manipulation of processes, alteration of genuine results from polling units, announcement of fabricated figures, and climax by the vexatious declaration of the defeated candidate of the All Progressive Congress, APC, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as winner. Nigerians and the international community are therefore appalled, horrified, and scandalized by the careless, unguarded, and sub judice comment by President Buhari in which he attempted to justify the rigging of the February 25, 2023 presidential election, having clearly undermined democracy in Nigeria. The PDP calls on the international community to accordingly impose sanctions, including visa ban and travel restrictions on President Buhari and his family immediately he vacates office on May 20.
And to legal matters, the president of the Court of Appeal, Justice Monica Dongban-Messem, has constituted 2 additional panels to hear petitions arising from the National and State House of Assembly elections in Lagos. This might not be unconnected with large numbers of petitions filed before the Lagos Election Tribunal. It was gathered that the new panels, dubbed Panel 2 and 3, will commence sitting next week at the State High Court sitting in Tafawa Balewa Square on Lagos Island, while Panel 1 will maintain its sitting at the Rosalyn Omotosho Courthouse in Ikeja, alongside the only panel sitting to hear the petitions on the governorship elections. At the close of receipt of petitions on April 9th, the Lagos State Governorship National and State Houses of Assembly Election Petitions Tribunal had received a total of 48 petitions in respect of the 2023 elections held on February 25 and March the 11th. And to security matters, 2 suspected notorious terrorists have been neutralized and there are 2 AK-47 rifles recovered by the Katsina State Police Command. The suspects were on their way to commit their heinous missions of kidnapping a renowned businessman in the state before they were apprehended. The incident occurred on Thursday at about noon after credible intelligence was received by the State Police Command's anti-kidnapping unit, who had been tracking and intercepting messages by the notorious gang of kidnappers. In the course of scanning the scene after a shootout between the security operatives and the gunmen, the corpse of one Samaila Shehu was discovered. The State Police spokesman, CSP Gambo Issa, in a statement yesterday, said investigations were still ongoing and that a full report will be made afterwards. And moving on, President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday flagged off the construction of a Center of Excellence for Environmental Restoration in Ogoniland, Rivers State. The president also laid the foundation for the Ogoni Power Project and a 100-bed specialist hospital in Wayakari Akana local government area of Rivers State. Buhari, who joined the groundbreaking ceremony virtually, said the projects are in fulfillment of his administration's pledge to provide succor for years of environmental degradation and in Ogoni land. Addressing the event, President Buhari commended the Ogoni people for supporting the cleanup of oil-impacted communities, which he flagged off in 2016. The projects are components of the Ogoni cleanup exercise, part of federal government's effort to turn around socio-economic life of Ogoni people who have suffered years of environmental pollution. Elsewhere, this year's rainy season and other weather conditions are likely to cause major disruption in the country, which will affect citizens' health and infrastructure in key sectors. According to a technical committee of experts set up by the federal government, this is due to the severity of the weather and lack of preparedness by relevant agencies. Roads, bridges, and other key infrastructure, as well as communities, may be washed away, while disease epidemic may break out in many communities. The panel, chaired by the National Emergency Management Agency, said the aviation sector was not left out, as airplanes may skid off runways and cause major catastrophes. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his persona and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works, Obakoso, Obawaja, and Moremi, took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. Samuel Ladoke Akintola was a frontal figure in the historical moves that birthed an independent Nigeria from colonial Britain. As a freedom activist, he deployed his wits, energy, intellect, and oratory skills to prepare the grounds for constitutional talks that eventually culminated in the country's independence in 1960. The 13th Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land cut his teeth as a politician when he became a foundation member of Action Group, the dominant political party in the Western region, and was elected the party's parliamentary leader of opposition at the Federal House of Representatives. The crisis in the Action Group, which pitched Samuel Ladoke Akintola against his leader, was not only a sore point in his colorful political life, but a reversal of gains which characterized the exemplary leadership of Awolowo Akintola premiership. 23 years after his death, Oyo State University of Technology Ogbomosho was renamed Samuel Ladoke Akintola University of Technology to keep his memory alive. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ladoke Akintola as a major character in history.
back and thank you for staying with us. Moving on to other stories. The federal government has declared Monday as a public holiday to mark the Workers' Day celebration. The Workers' Day is an annual celebration marked on the 1st of May. Minister of Interior Rauf Aregbesola made the announcement yesterday in a statement by Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Shuaib Belgore. Aregbesola commended workers for their hard work, diligence, and sacrifice in positioning Nigeria as an icon of greatness among other nations. He asked workers to prioritize productivity and urged them to raise the bar of their trade in line with President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. Aregbesola commended security agencies for the success recorded in the fight against crime across the country and encouraged them to be relentless in the pursuit in the total elimination of terrorists. And talking business, Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, says the federal government has no plans of spending the removal of petrol subsidy. On Thursday, the minister had reportedly said the National Economic Council agreed to temporarily suspend the removal of petrol subsidy. However, in a statement yesterday, Ahmed said the government has no such plans. Instead, it intends to expand the subsidy removal committee to include teams from the incoming administration and the state governors. She said NEC deliberated on the issue extensively and came to the conclusion that subsidy must be removed as it is not sustainable, but expressed need for further consultations, especially the need to involve members of the incoming administration and representatives of the state governments. Ahmed also said the 2023 Fiscal Framework and Appropriation Act, as well as the Petroleum Industry Act, have made the provision that the government should exit petrol subsidy by June 2023. News out Nigeria, the U.S. Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, is preparing a place First Republic Bank under receivership imminently. The U.S. banking regulator decided the troubled regional lender's position has deteriorated and there is no more time to pursue a rescue through the private sector. Big banks including J.P. Morgan, Chase & Co. and PNC Financial Services Group are vying to buy First Republic following its seizure by the government, which could come as soon as this weekend. If the San Francisco-based lender falls into receivership, it will be the third U.S. bank to collapse since March. First Republic said this weekend its deposit had slumped by more than $100 billion in the first quarter. Meanwhile, economically sensitive areas of the U.S. stock market are flashing warnings over growth, even as major equity indexes edge higher. The S&P 500 is up 8.6% for the year after gaining 1.5% in April, thanks to roaring year-to-date rallies in shares of Microsoft, Amazon, and other growth and technology stocks that command heavy weightings in broader indexes. Beneath the surface, however, areas of the market tied to economic sentiments such as transport, semiconductors, and small-cap stocks dropped in April, while so-called defensive sectors are outperforming. Investors cited growing caution among market participants faced with a ticket of concern from fears of a possible U.S. default this summer to worries that the Federal Reserve's aggressive monetary tightening could bring on a recession. On the foreign scene, a massive fire has ignited in the Crimean port city of Sevastopol following a suspected drone attack on a fuel storage tank. The Russian-installed governor, Mikhail Razvorayev, on a post telegram this morning said the blaze was assigned the highest ranking in terms of how complicated it will be to extinguish. He said the fire was still burning, but it had been contained and no one was injured, adding that the oil reservoir fire will not hinder fuel supplies in Sevastopol. He noted that the 4 fuel tanks that were hit were practically burned out already, stating that an area of 1,000 square meters had been engulfed in the flames. Sevastopol has come under repeated air attacks since Russia invaded Ukraine as a whole in February 2022. Kiev has repeatedly declared its intention to retake the Crimean Peninsula, which Russia annexed in 2014. And in Africa, the sounds of airstrikes, anti-aircraft weaponry and artillery could be heard in Khartoum early this morning as fighting in Sudan entered the third week. Fighting between the army and the rival paramilitary force continued despite the announcement of a 72-hour ceasefire extension yesterday. Dark smoke rose over parts of the city after strikes by air, tanks and artillery rocked the capital and the adjacent city of Bahari and Omdurman. Hundreds have been killed and tens of thousands have fled for their lives in a power struggle between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, that erupted into violence on April the 15th. And outside Africa, North Korea's Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of leader Kim Jong-un, has warned that her country will stage more displays of military might in response to a new agreement between South Korea and the United States. Ms. Yo-jong said the agreement reached this week between Washington and Seoul to shore up South Korean nuclear security will only worsen the situation and demonstrate extreme hostility towards North Korea. She added that Pyongyang is now convinced it must further perfect a nuclear war deterrent in respite to the agreement. She added that North Korea will not simply dismiss U.S. President Joe Biden's words as a nonsensical remark from the person in his daughter age. South Korea and U.S. had agreed to intensify nuclear deterrent to counter threats from Pyongyang. In the Middle East, Saudi Arabia and Iran will reopen embassies in each other's capital within days in a sign of warming relations after the two countries closed their mission 7 years ago. Iranian Foreign Minister Hosseini Amir-Abdollahian made this known at a news conference in the Lebanese capital Beirut yesterday. Mr. Amir-Abdollahian did not give specific dates for the reopening of the embassies, but said during the last phone call between himself and the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia, they both agreed to work to reopen the embassies in Tehran and Riyadh in the next coming days. The two countries reached an agreement in China earlier this month to re-establish diplomatic relations and reopen embassies after 7 years of tensions. And talking sports, Ferrari's Charles Leclerc made it 2 pole positions in as many days by leading the new sprint shootout at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Leclerc took pole for Saturday's sprint race despite crashing on his final lap of the new shortened qualifying session. He beat Red Bull's Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, with Mercedes driver George Russell in 4th place and Lewis Hamilton 6th, behind Ferrari's Carlos Sainz. Aston Martin's Fernando Alonso was 8th after issues with his DRS, overtaking 8.
Well, honestly, I tried to use a bit more track on the inside of turn 5, but for some reason today the track was not as clean as yesterday. There was a lot of dust on track, and by using a bit too much, I think I took the dust with the overheating of the rear tires. That was a bit too much, and I lost it. And then basically when you're offline, I couldn't stop the car anymore. So
let's have a look at it if we could, and roll it in, and maybe you can talk us through it from your perspective. Here we go.
Yeah, looks like you went to turn in there and then suddenly decided it wasn't going to make it.
Lost the rear a little bit.
Yeah, lost the rear, and then all I had in mind was to try and hit the wall as straight as possible to not damage the rear of the car, because we know that this is a long time after to repair it. So yeah, I tried to catch it, and then I knew that basically there was no way out after that.
Before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the postponement of the 2023 population and housing census, earlier scheduled for May 3rd to 7th, 2023, to a date to be determined by the incoming administration. The embattled national chairman of the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, has called for a meeting of the party's National Working Committee. On the foreign scene, a massive fire was ignited in the Crimean port city of Sevastopol following a suspected drone attack on a fuel storage tank. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends Spring News at 12. I am Tunde Ido. Good afternoon.